Good morning, everyone. Happy Valentine's Day. Happy Freedom Friday. I'm your host, Kurt Mercadante. It's time for the Freedom Friday live stream. Yes, normally we come to you at 9:30 a.m., but better late than never. We've had some sickness in the house, and my podcast studio was unavailable. So instead of coming to you 9:30 a.m., here we are, 9:48 a.m. Better late than never. I'm grateful that I'm able to join you this morning, and I'm grateful that you are here. Of course, happy Valentine's Day to you. Listen, today is a day when we obviously think first and foremost about relationships. And listen, whether you're married or single, whether you have a partner or you're single, whether you have friends, whether you have a pet, whatever it is, I can't stress enough. Relationships are most important. Relationships are most important. Now, I've had people argue with that with me up and down. But the fact of the matter is, listen, Harvard University has done the longest running study of relationships. They started with people 80 plus years ago when they were undergrads, and they asked them, what do you think it's going to take to have a fulfilling life? The majority of them said, well, money, status, awards, recognition. 80 plus years later, it's not even close. Relationships were number one. And I guarantee some of those people learned the hard way through toxic relationships, through divorce, whatever it is. But they've tracked these undergrads. They started when they were undergrads, and now they're 80 plus years old. They're still tracking them. Relationships are number one. So if you have failed to invest in your relationships the past couple of years, if you've let them fall by the wayside, rekindle those relationships, friends, family, loved ones, whatever it is. Now, that's not to say, and Randy Gage has a great blog post up this week about toxic relationships. No one deserves toxic relationships, relationships that infect you with the scarcity virus. And many times you got to say goodbye to those people, even if they're family, even if they're friends, because no one has the right to infect you with toxicity. But find those people with whom you can build abundant relationships. And it's so important. Relationships are extremely important. Again, if you are just joining us right now on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Twitter, wherever you're joining us, I hope you're having a week, a day, a year filled with freedom, abundance, and prosperity. Of course, I am your host, Kurt Mercadante. Normally, we come to you every Friday at 9:30 a.m. due to a number of situations that I mentioned earlier, including sickness in our house. Our youngest, our 5-year-old, was throwing up all over his room and our living room today. So we're coming to you a little late. It's 9:51 a.m., but we are here every Friday. I'm very grateful you're here. Let's check in on LinkedIn, see who's joining us. Martin Stewart from Melbourne, Australia. Hello. As you join us, pop in, say hello. Let us know your name, your town, your city, your state, your continent. Let us know your comments, your questions, your agreements, your disagreements. One of the best parts about these weekly live streams is seeing everyone join us from across the world. We have Martin from Melbourne, Australia. We have James. James, where are you from? We got Mike Phillips. Good morning. If you're joining us on Twitter, pop in, say hello. If you're joining us on Facebook, pop in, say hello. I know we got a number of people on LinkedIn coming in, letting us know where they're joining us from. Of course, we're on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter right now, coming to you live. And by the way, if you're joining us later today or tomorrow in the archive version, still jump in, pop in, and say hello. So earlier this week, and you'll hear the full interview on the Freedom Mindset podcast, or you'll hear it, or you'll watch it on our YouTube channel on Freedom Media Network. I interviewed venture capitalist, angel investor, John Osborne here in Charleston, South Carolina. He's one of the founders of the Harbor Entrepreneur Center. And he described to me his story, his journey to freedom and entrepreneurship and becoming an angel investor. And he said he worked at a big bank and he decided it wasn't for him. You know, I've been on that track, and I know a number of you have been as well. You're going through life and you realize I'm not doing what I feel like I was put on this earth to do. I'm not waking up with that sense of freedom and fulfillment. And so he left his good paying job at the bank and he went and he bummed around Europe just with a backpack. Said he slept on park benches out in parks. And it dawned on him, I can survive without money. I can survive without a job. If this is as bad as it gets, I can get through this. Now, you may say, well, that's more of a scarcity mindset, right? Preparing yourself for the worst. No, it was an abundant mindset because he realized if this is as bad as it gets, I can survive this. So I might as well go for it. I might as well create a vision for the life I actually want. Reverse engineer it and build it every day, because if it doesn't work out, I know I can survive. And one of the things we talked about was the fact that a lot of people don't understand that you can create a vision of prosperity, which, yes, includes wealth. Yes, includes money. Yes, it may include a nice house, a nice car, whatever, but not become obsessed by those desires. A lot of people don't understand that. They completely separate the two, that somehow wealth is bad. You can't desire any wealth. And the people who don't do that, who feel guilty about desiring wealth, have a scarcity mindset, in my opinion. If you have a bad relationship with money, you're never going to have it. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. I recently had a blog post on success shaming. But John's story was so clear. John invests in big companies. I don't know what John makes per year, but he is prosperous. He's abundant. He has that clear vision for prosperous and abundance, but he does not become so obsessed with it. And when I say obsessed, it's waking up every morning with that worry that, oh my gosh, I got to get another client or I'm going to fail. Oh my gosh, I got to get another $5,000 or $10,000 or I'm going belly up. You become so obsessed with the fear of failure that oftentimes you start manifesting that very thing that you fear the most. That's why every morning I meditate every morning, and I have several words. First is energy. I am energy. Then I am love. Then I am gratitude. I am joy. I am patience. And the last is I am detached. Because you can have a clear vision, yes, that includes abundance and wealth, but you can be detached from the results. I've talked about this on a previous podcast. Because when you become so obsessed by the results, what happens? You can lose your way. You can lose sight of your clear vision. You become so stressed that you become a cortisol factory. And when you're stressed all the time, those thoughts lead to emotions that can provide a block on your energy. Your energy is drained. And so instead of going clearly toward your vision, you are so obsessed with fear, the fear of failure, the fear that if I don't get another client through the door today, I am going to fail. You become so obsessed with that. And that is different than having a clear vision for abundance and prosperity. So John and I talk about it. Subscribe to the Freedom Mindset Radio podcast. You'll hear it. Or go to Freedom Media Network on YouTube. Subscribe there, and you'll listen to our conversation here in the coming weeks. But it was so interesting that by living without money on a park bench, he learned if this is as bad as it gets, well, shit, I might as well go for it because I know I can survive this. So he has a clear vision for abundance and prosperity, but he's not so obsessed with it because he knows the worst that could possibly happen. And I often ask people, and I think this was the topic of an earlier podcast. It was the Reverend Robert Schuller who used to ask, what would you do if you could not fail? Well, John experienced some of that, and he realized this ain't so bad. I might as well go for it. Do you feel the same? Do you have that belief instead of a hope, instead of a wish? I was messaging with someone yesterday on LinkedIn who said, well, I hope I get there. I don't know how I'm going to make more money in my side hustle than my day job, but I'm going to keep plugging away. And I said, with all due respect, you need a fundamental mindset shift. You're relying on hope and wish. And I trust in God. I trust in the universe that I hope it'll work out. That ain't the same as belief. Belief is knowing you're going to be there. Belief is getting up every morning, seeing that future vision in your mind as if you've already been there, so that every single day it's muscle memory. It's not an obsession with, oh my gosh, what if I fail? What if I fail? And you let the how get in the way of your what. You have no clear vision. You're obsessed with the results. You're obsessed with not failing. And so you don't have that clear path to abundance. So I look forward to sharing with you my conversation with angel investor John Osborne, his story. We talk about entrepreneurship. We talk about the entrepreneurial ecosystem here in Silicon Harbor, Charleston, South Carolina. So I hope you'll join us for that. Now, I know we have a number of people joining us here on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and on YouTube. If you're joining us, please pop in, say hello, let us know your name, your town, your city, your state, your continent, where in the world you're joining us from. Share your comments, your agreements, your disagreements. If you disagree with me, let me know. Mike Phillips from Colorado Springs, hello, welcome. We've got a number of other people. Something's happening here with LinkedIn. I can't see everything. We'll check in with Facebook here in a little bit. So let's move on to the next topic. There are so many people, maybe this is you, and I've been there, and I got to draw myself back from this, that try to rely on sheer motivation, sheer willpower, brute strength. I'm going to wake up in the morning and I'm so motivated and I'm going to go out and get it. And you get that stress hormone, that fight or flight cortisol hormone coursing through your brains. And my gosh, I'm going to go get it done. And that only lasts for so long. And you're trying to be a cannon, firing in all directions, throwing enough shit on the wall that you hope it sticks. And there's so many people who try to build a business that way. There's so many people who try to build a, quote, healthy lifestyle that way. My friends, that's why the gyms are packed in January and empty in October. And the people who are still there in October, November, and December are those people who put a system in place, didn't rely on willpower, didn't rely on cortisol, didn't rely on sheer willpower. Instead of becoming a cannon, they became a magnet for abundance, a magnet for prosperity, a magnet for good health. Now you say, oh, is that a bunch of woo-woo mumbo jumbo? No, it's absolutely not. Because your thoughts fuel your feelings and emotions. Those feelings and emotions are actual chemical reactions. Today's Valentine's Day. Think of someone you're really attracted to. We won't get into what chemical reaction happens in your body, but your thoughts create a physical reaction in your body. Think about a traumatic event, something that scares you. You have that drop in your stomach. Your thoughts are leading to an actual physical reaction in your body. So when you wake up and you're ready to go and you're in the blocks and you're waiting for the gun and you're like that day after day after day, those thoughts are triggering a physical reaction of stress constantly in your body. You can't do that. You can't keep that up day after day. Instead, you've got to have a clear vision where you wake up every single morning and you transport yourself through meditation and affirmation into that clear vision as if your future is your present. You go to that place every single morning and then you reverse engineer from there so that you have a clear path to get there. Each of us was endowed with talents. We were born with them. They are all there. On a previous episode of this podcast, I talked about the fact that everything you need to succeed is right here. Each of us has those weapons and those tools. But some people are so blinded by the daily stress of life, so blinded by the fact that they think it's brute strength knocking down walls every single day that they can't see what's right in front of them. They can't see their talents. They can't see their weapons. They can't see with what they were born. And so instead of becoming a magnet for good things, they become a cannon firing in all directions and they wear out. You can use the example of the tortoise and the hare. The funny thing about cliches and stories like that and fairy tales is they're only false if you don't believe in them. But you don't build a life of abundance and prosperity by being a cannon. You do it by being a magnet for abundance, a magnet for prosperity. Hell, from just a sheer sales point of view, when you are a cannon, when you are desperate, when you are obsessed with getting that next sale, everyone knows it. You're that type of person who sends a LinkedIn connection, someone accepts it, and right away you said, you want to buy my product or service. Sales expert Brad Lay, who I had on my podcast, who I had on this show last year, urged focus on the relationships. Don't focus on the sale. When you focus on the relationship, you might not get the sale then and there, but that person may buy from you later, may recommend you to all their friends. But being able to focus on the relationship instead of the sale means you've got to be willing to be patient and detach from the end result and become a magnet instead of a cannon. That's what relationships are. It's not just fire, 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 fire. There's a lot of giving in addition to taking. But I see so many people who go in to a business firing away. They don't have a clear target. They don't have that identified. They're knocking down walls. And after a year, they are so worn out. Oh my gosh, from the daily stress, firing away, just throwing punches randomly. And they think, well, I've tried everything because I'm tired, I'm worn out. So I must have tried everything and I'm a failure. When in fact, if they had slowed everything down, slow your heart rate down, have a clear vision for where you want to go every single day, do the hard work of getting up early in the morning, meditating, affirming that you are already in the vision, that you're already in that future, that future becomes present. So it's so clear, it's easy to reverse engineer and seeing that you can get there. Becoming patient, becoming detached, but still having a sense of purpose that you are walking there. Listen, you can't plan to your vision. You can't throw things at the wall to your vision. That's when you get lost. You have to have that clear vision, act like you've been there before, and reverse engineer it. And when you do so, you become a magnet for freedom. You become a magnet for abundance. You become a magnet for prosperity instead of a cannon. So I urge you today, become more of a magnet and less of a cannon. So with that, let's jump in. Let's check. Let's see who's joining us. Anyone else joining us in on LinkedIn here? We'll head over to Facebook as well. As you come in, I urge you, say hello. Let us know your name, your town, your city, your state, your questions, your comments, your agreements, your disagreements, where in the world you're joining us from. What up, Nick? Nick from Chicago. Belief in yourself. Yes, a belief in yourself and a belief that you were endowed, you were born with these God-given talents. I truly believe that prayer is gratitude, that we have these gifts and using them. It's not, oh my gosh, please help me. I know people when they get sick or loved ones get sick, their loved ones may pass away and they say, well, God didn't help me. And I say to them, with all due respect, you didn't truly believe. You hoped, you wished, but you didn't have true belief. In an upcoming show, we're going to talk about placebos. Do you know that Dr. Andrew Weil was recently on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast, and he noted that some anti-anxiety or anti-depression drugs, the placebos, have a 60 to 75% success rate. Now, why is that? It's because the person taking that sugar pill has a belief that it's going to work. And we are the chemists of our own body. Our minds are our chemists. And so your body, your mind starts releasing those chemicals as if you were taking the real drug. 60 to 75%, my friends, that is the power of belief. That's why placebos work. That's why voodoo works, right? It's called a nocebo. You believe that someone puts a hex on you. You believe on it and you manifest it. All of us know those people who are constantly sick all the time, and they have come to believe that they're sickly, that they were born sick, that they were born unhealthy. They have that strong belief in it. And so it manifests itself every single day. It's hard to believe. It's hard to have belief. It's easier to hope. It's easier to wish. But when you have that strong belief that you were given those tools and talents to be successful, and you have a clear vision and you say, I'm going to use the tools and talents I was given to manifest that future that I want, That, my friends, is true belief. Hope won't get you there. Wish won't get you there. And if you listen to this show regularly, I urge you, instead of saying, I agree with what Kurt says, I hope I'm going to get there. I urge you to take hope, throw it out the window, put it in the trash can, throw it in the shit can it, whatever it is, whatever you have to do, burn it, tear it up. And instead of saying, I hope I'm going to get there, say, I believe I'm going to get there. I am there right now. If you listen to what I say, if you read any self-help book, personal development book, and you say, you agree with that, I wish I could get there. I want you to take wish. I want you to tear it up. I want you to throw it out the window. I want you to burn it. I want you to shit can it. I want you to replace wish with I am there. Hope and wish won't get you there, my friends. It's got to be belief, and it's got to be I am. Recently, I posted on LinkedIn, if you want to be a billionaire, start acting like it. And of course, the scarcity mindsets came up to the surface. Oh my gosh, that's irresponsible. What are you telling people to go spend money they don't have? That, my friends, is a scarcity mindset. A farmer looks out the window at a field in the middle of the winter, looks desolate, and says, oh, the crops are beautiful. Someone else is standing next to that farmer and they say, are you crazy? There's snow on the ground. It's desolate. There's no crops. You see, the farmer has a clear vision. The crops are there. They're underground. The roots are taking hold. All you got to do is add some warmth, some sunshine, and some water. That farmer has a clear vision for the crops. They are already there. That's an abundance mindset, my friends. All you got to do is add some warmth, some sunshine, some water. Are you ready for that? Or do you have a scarcity mindset that says, I don't see anything. It's desolate. Kurt, when you say if you want to be a billionaire, act like it, that's irresponsible. Don't spend money you don't have. Of course, I'm not saying go to your bank account and spend all your money. What I'm saying is an abundance mindset has a clear vision, and every day meditates on that vision, affirms that vision, says, I am this, as if you've already been there. Then you reverse engineer it. So every single day you are on the path to that vision. Your body, your mind believes you've already been there. And in doing so, you start to manifest that future as reality now. If you don't believe it, that's fine. I got to ask you, how's your program working out for you? How is your program working out for you? When people come to me and say, oh, you don't have to do all that. You don't have to do all that. And I say, how's your program working out for you? Well, I'm in a job that doesn't fulfill me. I'm obese. I'm unhealthy. I'm sick all the time. And maybe the reason is because you sit there, you fold your arms, you go in the corner with your scarcity mindset, and you say, I don't have to do that. Meditation's for dummies. That's all woo-woo. I don't believe in it. I'm not going to try that. Okay, how's your program working out for you? If you want to stay stupid with a scarcity mindset, fat, unhealthy, sick, whatever it is, keep doing your program. Keep it up. How's your program working out for you? James in New York, hello. Wow, I needed this today. Well, thanks, James. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, as you join us, let us know your name, your town, your city, your state, comments, questions. Yes, Joel, fire, adjusting fire. Listen, you fire away. If you haven't missed it, adjust it. Go a little to the right, go a little to the left. But it's easier to have that target defined, right? Rather than just firing in the dark. Tanner, I'm using StreamYard, it's called. Thank you. Zig Ziglar said, money isn't everything. It's right there with oxygen, though, and needing to have it to live. Yes. You can have a clear vision for a prosperous and abundant life, but don't become obsessed with the results. That's when you turn into the cannon. That's when you turn into a cortisol factory. Become more of a magnet. So I recently had a couple of blog posts regarding, I'll put it in the category of success shaming. One blog post was about what I call healthy shaming, right? We hear a lot about fat shaming. Fat shaming is wrong, certainly, but we hear a lot about fat shaming. And I'm getting a lot of reads and a lot of reactions to this blog post about healthy shaming. 11 years ago, because I was in poor health, I was about 40, 50 pounds heavier than I am now. I was on a whole cocktail of prescription drugs, anxiety attacks, statin drugs for 8 years. And I decided, screw it. I don't want to live a life like that. I don't feel free. I'm in a prison based on lifestyle choices I have made, and I made a choice, and I switched to a primal lifestyle. Several years later, I went to the doctor and I said, "Oh, my cholesterol seems high." And he looks at it and he said, "You have the best ratio of good to bad cholesterol I've ever seen in a male your age." He said, "What are you eating?" I said, "A lot of red meat, bacon, eggs." He said, "Well, keep it up," because I wasn't eating the sugar. I wasn't eating the processed foods. I wasn't eating all the crap. But the reason I bring this up is this. I'm about to turn 45 and I'm in the best shape of my life. Best shape of my life. Not a week goes by where someone doesn't give me a complete weird look or, "Wow, you're weird. You're on that weird diet." All because what? I don't eat shit. I don't eat refined sugars. I try to drink healthy wine. We try to eat organic food. I don't push it on anyone else, but I've made decisions in my life that have put me in a place where I'm healthier than I've ever been. Sprints on the beach, lifting weights. I'm more flexible. I'm leaner. Feel great. But not a week goes by, and when I wrote this blog post, I heard from other people who are in the same position. They've decided to get rid of the refined sugars. And when they're out with friends, their friends, they make fun of them. "Oh, what are you doing? You're with that weird diet." For several years, I was pretty strict on primal, and I was what's called paleo. And I had a relative who, by the way, is a drug addict who would always make jokes about paleo, paleontology, and all that. Must have made the joke 500 times or 1,000 times. I didn't really let it get to me. The reason I bring this up is the people who healthy shame are some of the most unhealthy people in the world. "Oh, you got a crazy diet. Why don't you eat bread? You're so strict. You don't need to do all that." I had two people recently come up to me at a speech. One of them said, "I eat healthy. I haven't been on medicine. I haven't been sick in years. And here's what I do." And her friend, who physically looked unhealthy, said, "I don't believe in any of that. I believe in taking a lot of medications, doing yada, 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 yada." As I like to say, how's your program working out for you? One person looked about 15 years younger than she actually was. The other person was a picture of unhealth. Often, the people who shame healthy people the most are the unhealthiest people. And it has to do with the fact that if you want to have healthy relationships with others, you have to have a healthy relationship with yourself. Yes, you have to love yourself. True love. Loving yourself and narcissism are not the same things. Often narcissists hate themselves. I'm talking about true love and having that good relationship with yourself. And if you don't, you have a self-esteem problem, which can manifest itself at looking at those who are doing what you want to do and shaming them, laughing at them. "Oh, you don't eat bread. You're weird. You don't eat those processed foods. Nothing's going to happen." And the same person who says nothing is going to happen is overweight, feels horrible, is inflamed, gets sick more often. As we know, inflammation can lead to cancer, a host of things, heart disease. They're constantly stressed. But it's not just health, too. I had another blog post about success shaming. Because in our society, Hollywood, schools, parents, from the pulpit, churches, teach us to what? To shame successful people. It's the same thing. If we are raised with a sense of guilt, I was raised Catholic. In many cases, my goodness, having that extra cookie and robbing a bank were like on the same plane of sin, eternal damnation. And when you grow up with that guilt, you have worthiness issues, you have self-esteem issues, and you can lash out by shaming the healthy people while you sit there and you shove cookies in your mouth. And you also shame successful people because we're taught wealth is bad. My friend Randy Gage, who we talk about this, go to Freedom Media Network on YouTube right now, on LinkedIn, talked about the fact that we are programmed. We're programmed by our tribes. We're programmed by Hollywood, the amount of Hollywood movies in which the villain is the evil rich guy. Randy tells a story about coming out one day, opening the paper, and it said, "Millionaire accused of murder." right across the headline. And he said, I never remember a headline that says poor man accused of murder. That's on page 6. We are conditioned for envy and guilt. And that cocktail of envy and guilt, my friends, is toxic to you. It is corrosive. And the more you shame successful people, the more I can guarantee you, you will not be successful. If you're someone who watches Shark Tank and said those people, those fat cats, they have too much money, I guarantee you are not going to come across money, or you're going to be one of those majority of people who wins the lotto and loses it right away because you are programmed for scarcity. Yes, you may be programmed for poverty. And if you think that sounds mean, just look at the evidence. Look at the evidence in your own life. Yes, there's Bernie Madoffs in the world, but the vast majority of people who create things and create businesses are good people. They're ethical, they're moral. We hear a lot about the bad actors, fictional and otherwise, because we're programmed to do so. The Pope goes around, of course, cashing checks from capitalists, telling everyone how bad the free market is and how bad capitalists are. My dad went to University of Notre Dame. That's 50 grand a year. You think the poor people are paying that? You think the poor people can afford that? I went to Catholic high school, 13 grand a year. When you program people for guilt, it's amazing. Maybe it pays off. People will give you money. But this is why people shame healthy people. Because we have worthiness issues. We pair guilt with envy, and the two manifest themselves in a toxic cocktail of behavior, toxic behavior. And we resort to the unhealthy behavior while shaming those who are living the lives we know that we would like to live. We shame healthy people. We shame successful people. Oh, those fat cats. And we come to believe the myth that as they get richer, we get poorer. When in reality, we're just not taking personal responsibility for our health, for our success, for our prosperity. It's easier to curse other people. It's easier in our mind to create the fiction that because that person is healthy, I'm going to hate them and keep living an unhealthy life. It's the same way with success. Just because that person is successful monetarily, they must be keeping me down. That's the easiest thing to do. It's corrosive. It's toxic. It's not a life of freedom. It's not a life of fulfillment. It's not a life of abundance or prosperity, but it's damn easy to do. Fold your arms. Close your mind, blame the world, don't take personal responsibility. It's easy. It's toxic, it's corrosive, but it certainly is easy. So if you find yourself shaming successful people, shaming healthy people, I urge you to dig in deep, find out why are you doing that? Were you programmed for scarcity? Were you programmed for guilt and envy? And if so, here's the good news. You can reprogram yourself. I know it because I've done it to myself. I work with others to help reprogram them for freedom, abundance, and prosperity, but it takes hard work. It takes daily discipline. And yes, it's hard to do because it's a lot harder than retreating into our scarcity mindsets and blaming the world for our problems. With that, I want to thank you all for joining me for this Freedom Friday. I also want to highlight something I forgot to highlight. Today's episode is brought to you by my upcoming Authority branding experience. I have 3 decades of helping create authority brands. Formerly had a PR and ad agency working with some of the largest businesses, brands, nonprofits in the world. And I want to share that knowledge with you to help you create a authority brand, an actual authority brand, which is different than a commodity dime a dozen brand. Do you want to build an authority brand? Click the link in the post. Join my webinar. It's February 27th, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Let's work together to create an authority brand that actually sells. That's the path to being prosperous. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you for everyone who popped in, left your comment, your questions, your agreements, your disagreements, your name, your town, your country, your continent. My name's Kurt Mercadante. We'll be back next Friday with the Freedom Friday live stream. Thank you.